Hey everybody, this is my 20 long open top, and I've finally begun the process of breaking it down. I've removed the angelfish already. They're over in my 29 miscellaneous. So far so good. I'm hoping I can keep them in there because I was talking about putting them in a 10-gallon tank upstairs, and I really didn't want to do that, but hopefully the 29 will work out for them and they'll have a little more swimming around room. In the meantime, I've got neons and glow light tetras left in this tank. The glow light tetras are going to go in my black ghost knife fish tank, but we'll have a look at that in just a moment. The neons, I think I'm going to put in the 29 miscellaneous as well. I don't have anything in that tank that actually preys on the neons, so they just sort of die off over time, and slowly but surely I lose neons in that tank, and now I'm down to about 2 or 3, I think. And I'd like to get it back up to where there's a small school of them moving around the tank, even if it's only 5 or 6. So I think I'm going to put the neons that are in here in my 29 miscellaneous as well. Neons and angelfish in the same tank always look good to me. The only fish remaining in the tank will be the 3 chocolate zebra plecos I have in there. Those are going to go in my 125, and that should be it for the inhabitants of the tank. The other thing I wanted to talk about is all of the hardscape I have in here, all of these rocks. I know it's kind of hard to see with the glare of that twin tube fluorescent light right there, but these are good rocks. These are all good shaped rocks. They're good looking rocks. I know they're all covered and the glass is all filthy and it's kind of hard to see, but I'm certainly not just going to discard these rocks and get rid of them. I'll keep them. I will store them somewhere where they dry out eventually. I can then boil them or cook them slowly in my oven and sterilize them, and I'll have rocks for any other little projects in the future. I've actually got quite a few little piles of rocks around the house, out on the back porch, and in the other area of my basement. The plants are going to go in the trash. They're all covered in green cyanobacteria, as is most everything in this tank, so I'm not too worried about that. This is the only thing that's kind of breaking my heart a little bit. This piece of wood that you can see sticking out here, and if we look down here, we can get a little bit better look at the bottom of it. You see how it's got that flat sawed-off edge? If you will remember my video where I've talked about where I got the woodwork for my former African tank, or my black ghost knife fish tank now, I actually removed 3 chunks of wood from that main body of wood where I collected. It was a big root mass out at Pretty Boy Reservoir, and I rolled it upside down and cut several of the root legs off, or whatever you want to call them. I guess you get the meaning of what I'm talking about. And I then turned them upside down and stuck them in the ground, you know, on the sawed off part side down. So that's one of them. This larger piece of wood here actually curls up. There's a piece that wraps around to the left. There's a piece that goes off to the center, and then it's got this other longer arm that goes all the way up into the back, and that's one of the pieces. And then of course I also have the flat side down in this tank, and then on this side of the tank I've got the other piece, once again flat side down where I cut it, and then it's got this arm that goes all the way across the front of the tank, and then another arm that goes up and across the back that has this java growing all over it. So all of these pieces of wood came from the same location and came from the original main root mass of wood that I got several years ago when I set that tank we were just looking at up as my African tank several years ago. So there's sentimental value involved in this piece of wood as well. So definitely not going to be getting rid of that. But the tough part is all of that java. It's all really growing. You know, it's growing onto the wood. I can't separate them without tearing it off of the wood. And it's taken a long time to grow that much java onto that piece of wood like that. The problem is it's covered in cyanobacteria. So if I do anything with it, I'm just going to transfer all that cyanobacteria. So as much as I hate to do it, I think I'm going to strip all that java off as well and just call this tank a loss, except for the hardscape. The rocks and the piece of wood will go, you know, get dried out, get cleaned off, get sterilized, and then I can use them again. In fact, I'm going to use that piece of wood in the new tank I'm going to be setting up that's going to replace both this tank, my brackish tank over there that's turned into my red swamp monster, And then down there is my little 10-gallon quarantine tank. That'll get moved over to another part of the room as well. So we're underway. We're in the process of getting this all broken down now. My next step is going to be getting in there and just removing all of the rocks and hardscape and just getting the physical stuff out of my way so that I can get to the neons and start catching them and collecting them out of there more easily. I'm also going to do a gravel vac and water change on it when I do it. I know that sounds kind of silly. If I'm breaking the tank down, why do a water change? When I collected the angelfish out of there, which were relatively easy to catch for fish, but for angelfish, they were surprisingly feisty. They were hard to catch for angelfish. Usually you can just reach in and scoop them up. They look at the net like they don't understand what's going on. In this case, they seemed like they knew damn right well what that net was, and they tried like hell to avoid it. In the process, they kicked up a bunch of mulm, and in it I could see little tufts of green stuff floating around. So I know they kicked up cyanobacteria. I did my best to separate the fish from it when I scooped them out and put them in the other tank, but there's no doubt that I put cyanobacteria in my 29 miscellaneous. It's already got it in there, so I'm not too concerned about it. I didn't sweat it that much, but it did transfer it. So I want to be a little more careful with the next one because I'm going to be getting in there and catching a different kind of fish, and that net's going to be swirling around quite a bit. And there's a bunch of really filthy, nasty stuff on the bottom of the tank that I just want to get out of there before I start. A lot of it has already been kicked up from when I was already in there, but you can see underneath the filter intake over there all the mulm and fish waste and everything. It's just a whole lot of it in this tank. I'll give you a little better look at it. That's just piles of it in the corner and everywhere else. So we're definitely going to, go a little more carefully as we pull the remaining fish out of this tank. So there you go. There's stage one. Stay tuned for more. Subscribe if you're not already. That way you won't miss any of the progress as I move along with this little project. This is probably going to be done by the end of the day. I'll get this whole tank broken down. I'll get the rocks stored in the other room. I'll get the fish relocated. And we'll have this tank done and out of the way. I do have a use for that filter. Once I clean it and sterilize it, I'm going to put it on one of the tanks I have upstairs. The filter up there is starting to rattle a little bit and getting on my nerves. So I've got this really swanky, nice filter. It's got UV sterilization, and it's customizable. Really cool little filter. I like them a lot. I have two of those. So that one's going to go on one of my tanks upstairs, and then the other one that I have all the way over here on the far side of my brackish tank is the other one. That is actually an external hang on the back that has a UV sterilizer in it. Nifty little filter. So when this tank gets broken down, I'm going to take that filter, sterilize it, and then repurpose that and reuse it for another tank that I've got upstairs as well. So everything over here, probably except for that light fixture, is going to get reused somewhere else. And then I'll see what happens with that tank later on down the road. So thanks for watching. As I said before, please subscribe if you're not already. That way you won't miss any of these little videos. I'm obviously going to be shooting a ton of little update videos as we go along and move through this process. And if you're subscribed, you won't miss any of them. So thanks for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you real soon on the next one.